Okay, it's 2 minutes already. Let's start because there are a lot of slides and we still are hoping to jam in Q&A section in the end. So I won't take long here. I hand over to you, Dima.
Thank you, Oleg, and thank you for having me here and for inviting me to do this live stream. Just, a couple of things about me. I'm Dima. I'm currently founder of a small boutique advisory company called Lean GTM. And before that, I was a founder. I was a junior founder at the company called Tommy.ai. And it was an exciting 4-year journey. I was in charge of sales and marketing, and I had the privilege to work with some of the great companies out there. It was marketing technology, enterprise grade, about 60 to $80,000 average contract value, so a high ticket item, relatively narrow TAM. And before becoming a startup founder, I was actually first a McKinsey consultant and then an executive at a big corporation. So I know a little bit about the corporate world. And it was interesting how the perspective changes when you become a founder trying to sell into the corporation. So today, my main objective is to share what I learned along this journey of building my startup and finding new clients, closing deals, and making sure the business has a fighting chance of survival and becoming something great. And a brief plan for today is to talk a little bit about account-based marketing. That's one of the acronyms that is very popular these days, and everybody has their own definition and their own views on what it means. I will share my understanding of what it means and how you can benefit from it potentially. I will explain how it is connected with cold outreach and what both concepts, if used simultaneously, how they can help you achieve better results. And of course, being a startup founder myself, I will make some references to some guerrilla tactics that small people, small companies can use and have a chance of competing with the industry champions and hopefully, disrupting them from time to time, building new unicorns. So I assume everybody who came today is familiar with cold outreach. I don't need to tell you, you probably know that already, that year after year, cold outreach is becoming more and more difficult. There was this great research done by Insight Partners, one of the big VC firms. They measured how many outbound activities their sales team needed to do in order to book a meeting in outbound channel, not close a deal, but just book an initial meeting. And basically, the number grew almost fivefold over the last 5 years. And another interesting statistics that is less quoted, but it is just about 42% of sellers in the United States that actually achieve quota. So everybody is boasting about unlimited commissions, unlimited upsides, and everything, and lucrative on-target earnings deals. But the hard fact is that just about 40% of sales team members actually hit their number. And that number was growing a little bit last year, but it's never been way higher than 50%. So everybody who is doing sales knows that sales, especially in B2B, especially in high ticket categories, is a tough grind. And three typical problems that even if you are successful with cold outreach, you are still struggling to book enough meetings, especially high quality meetings with target accounts that specify, that satisfy some strong and high hurdle ideal customer profile criteria. Prospects that you book via cold outreach can, be super positive on the first call. They might even tell you they love your product, they love what you're doing, but then they will just ghost you. And sometimes it's just their polite way of saying no. sometimes life took precedence. Everybody has to do what they had to do in this tough business environment. But with cold outreach more than with inbound or some other channels, you are facing those issues of prospects that are ghosting, even if they give you some positive feedback. And of course, cold outreach is called for a reason. People don't know about you. There is not necessarily a purchase intent already in place. So it is not uncommon to face long sales cycles and or low win rates. And sometimes, it's even hard to measure a sales cycle or a win rate because they can take very long time. They often end in no decision. My personal record, so to say, is about 19 months. That's 1-9 between the initial introductory conversation with a customer and the closed won deal. And to be frank, I should probably treat this time as two separate sales cycles because there was initial engagement that, basically cooled off after a couple of months. And then there was a lot of nurturing involved. And then we re-engaged. The timing was a little bit better. My demo performance was a little bit better probably. And we ended up closing this deal relatively quickly. But the initial conversation and the closed one signed contract were almost 2 years apart. And that is not uncommon if you're doing cold outreach. And there are a lot of reasons for that, of course. And two primary reasons that I have identified myself is that everybody is doing cold outreach. The barrier to entry is relatively low. That what makes cold outreach beautiful and wonderful. Everybody can basically build a startup and try to find B2B customers with cold outreach. It doesn't cost a ton of money, but the flip side of that is that everybody is doing that. Everybody is looking at the same data or very similar data. Everybody looking at triggers like a new role or company change. So I hope that you recognize some of you recognize yourselves here as those dinosaurs and have a little bit of empathy to the buyer. But even bigger reason than basically being a super noisy channel, of course, the bigger reason is the buyer. And there are multiple studies about that, and most of them basically say that at any given point in time, just about 2%, 3%, maybe 5% of buyers are in market for something that you are selling. And typically, those people who are really, really in distress, who have a huge burning problem, they probably don't need you to reach out to them. They are probably browsing the internet, speaking with ChatGPT, trying to find companies that solve burning issues, and those are probably your and your competitors' inbound leads. And the truth is that as growth marketers or business developers, we often have to deal with those two categories in our outreach. People who may be concerned, but the problem doesn't feel big enough to do anything about it yet, or oftentimes, even more often, people are just problem unaware. Those are the people that would ignore your outreach pretty much, and you know what is happening with reply rates and the number of prospects you need to sequence in order to book a meeting. But what's even more striking, and I'm quoting here a fairly recent study by Bain and Company published on Harvard Business Review. And during my time at a big corporation and at McKinsey, I actually saw a similar study for B2C buyers, is that when the buyer is ready to buy, they already have a day one list. So once they decide that the problem became big enough to do something about it, some kind of a trigger event happens potentially, or, it's just, enough is enough kind of situation. At this precise moment in time, on the very first day, before they even do any research into the topic, they already have a few vendors in mind. they already have a few brand names in mind. And ultimately, about 90% of deals will go to one of these two, three, maybe four brands that come to buyer's mind on the day one. And surprise, cold outreach is not a great channel, not a great way to get on this day one list. So that is why doing growth for startups and cold outreach specifically is so tough, because you are basically, fighting for a very, very small percent of the market against people who have already earned a place in the buyer's head, so to say. And I love this post by this guy, Patrick Trumpy. I'm following him on LinkedIn. He's not the only one who posted similar things, but imagine you're cold calling, not even like cold emailing, but if you're calling from a big company and a relatively famous brand like Salesforce, this is basically what your cold call looks like. Hey, it's Tony from Salesforce. Hi. Oh, I've been thinking about Salesforce, HubSpot, and so on lately. Great. What have you been thinking about? And then the prospect basically spills the beans, tells you pretty much everything. While the similar experience for a startup is like what your company is called again, like what do you do, what do you want? So you either bring a great opener and do something about it, or you're basically in the wrong area. And of course, everybody would want more Salesforce-like cold calls and cold outreach in general. And what I'm going to tell you about today a little bit more is that it doesn't take a Salesforce budget to get there. The main problem with your cold outreach is that it's cold, but it doesn't have to be. And a lot of tactics that I'm going to cover today, and I deliberately deprioritized traditional marketing and traditional and maybe less traditional paid advertising, just because often it's not even about the budget. If you know how to do ads don't actually cost that much money if you know how to cook them. But the whole process of organizing everything, either doing the work yourself or finding the right freelancers, it can be overbearing. So today we will be focusing on more organic plays that require effort and time, but not much budget. But before we do that, let us talk about account-based marketing a little bit. And I recently attended a CMO summit here in Atlanta. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. And one of the speakers told a fascinating joke that ABM is like teenage sex. Everybody's talking about it, but nobody really knows truly what they are doing. And in theory, it should be this highly targeted approach to marketing, focus on specific companies, specific accounts, rather than a broad audience. And it's supposed to be super useful for products with narrow target markets, large enterprises, long and complex sales processes or sales cycles, high checks. And I will talk about it more a little bit, like what it entails, but it can be boiled down to those three things. First, you think about how you select your target accounts. Then you think about how do you engage with those accounts. And of course, the measurement is very important. So you need to measure your progress. You need to measure your success. You're running a long and complex sales cycle. So you need some leading indicators to know if you're on track or not. And I've been trying to find a good ABM framework, like how ABM works. Nothing satisfied me, so I built a little bit of a framework of my own. I will not cover it in detail. We will share the presentation later on, so you can, look at it a little bit. But that basically covers those three steps in a little bit more detail, and it gives you some tips what to focus on. One of the big areas which sort of gets deprioritized for whatever reason is what happens after you close the customer. And the unicorns are made not with new logo acquisition. even though every company, every customer of yours was a new logo at some point in time. But what makes or breaks a unicorn is retention and expansion, and of course, advocacy and loyalty. And it's surprising to see how many founders and how many sales professionals they overlook that simple fact, and that's their loss. So ABM was supposed to be special. It wasn't supposed to be cold outreach or similar at all. So first of all, it was supposed to be based on deep research-based personalization, customized content, customized landing pages. It should be about engaging multiple personas across multiple channels at the same time. With the traditional outreach, you can run a campaign for a specific persona, for a specific offer. In account-based environment, you're probably targeting multiple personas in the same company with different messaging, of course, but at the same time. Usually, since your target market is a lot more narrow, you are expanding a lot more touch points, a lot more touches, a lot more attempts to get in touch with the company. And there is supposed to be a close collaboration between sales and marketing. Of course, buying intent was how the whole category of account-based marketing software started about 5, maybe 10 years ago. And of course, focusing on accelerating deals that are already in the pipeline and expansion and retention, not just new pipeline creation, is what distinguishes account-based setup. So why am I not completely satisfied, and why I think traditional account-based marketing is not good enough, especially not good enough for somebody doing outreach for a startup? First of all, traditional account-based marketing is deeply, deeply rooted in direct response mindset. So essentially, it's not about nurturing the buyer as much, not about in practice, I mean, not in theory. But if you read content about it, you will see that this is a consistent theme. You try to surface some sort of intent to get quick results. Okay, that's great. But what about creating demand? What about getting on this driven list? What about picking the battlefield instead of just showing up for the battle? Another point that makes me deeply dissatisfied with traditional account-based marketing concept is a lot of focus on, I call them fishy third-party intent data sources. So a typical intent data source would be, oh, somebody in the organization started reading a lot of articles on Forbes.com or HBR. There are a lot of publishers who share data with cooperatives behind those third-party intent data tools. And even in Apollo and similar tools, the intent data you see is basically content consumption trends. So if somebody is starting to consume a lot of content or a lot more content than usual on a specific topic, they're presumed to have buying intent. A lot of times, this is not the case. A lot of times, this is just the beginning of the research phase and of the buyer journey. So a lot of sellers and even more marketers have been disappointed with the results when they tried to use third-party intent data for account selection and targeting. Another very big sin of traditional account-based marketing is focus on tooling over substance. And the legendary company in that space is Sixth Sense. They are notorious for super high account average contract values, and oftentimes just installing the software, finding the budget takes precedence over actually achieving results with it. And the final point, all this personalization, all this deep research, it needs to find its way to first the eyes and ears of the potential customer, right? In order to get into their hearts and minds. And like 99% of time, the traditional recipe for outbound account-based marketing is same cold outage. So you run a significant risk of all of this extra effort and all of this personalization go to waste just because you are still using the same saturated, noisy channel. But again, as we said, you still need to make people know and like you. You need to cut through the noise. People need to notice you. People need to remember you if you want to start a meaningful conversation. And just recently, I found this post by Pep Laja. Great guy, by the way. He runs like a super great B2B marketing event in Austin called Spring with a Y, like the winter, name of his company. And his company is basically doing consumer insights. So he posts a lot about interviewing buyers at different levels and how the buying process in B2B actually works. So long story short, even as a startup, the key to success is making sure more people know and like you. And today I will share my learnings and the framework that I'm currently building. I'm thinking about writing a book on it, maybe, a few months later. But it all started to come together after I decided to move on from my previous company. I had a little bit more time to reflect. And some of the successes we had, some of the, failures that we had, all of them inspired this. So this is my framework. I call it Intelligent Unbound Framework for Account-Based Sales and Marketing Activities. And it just has 3 steps. And I will go deeper on each of them later. But first of all, of course, especially if you are running a tight ship with a narrow target audience, high contract value, and sophisticated or complex qualification criteria. For example, for Tommy, we could only help like a lot only to companies spending significant amount of money, like 7-figure performance advertising budget. And not just any performance advertising, but specifically Facebook and Google. That was our initial ideal customer profile. And when you're working with a target market that narrow, you better make sure you find every good fit buyer out there and you segment them, prioritize them in order to understand what campaigns you should launch. But building this master list of people you are after, people that you ideally have some success in the past with, that you have good case studies, and you have internal confidence that you really can help them, and you have proof, that helps a lot and builds a strong foundation for your success going forward. The second step is probably the most difficult one and the most unobvious one, is essentially you need to create an information bubble around your ideal buyers. And I'm not just talking about paying for advertising and hoping for the best. There is a lot you can do with just your own effort and your team's effort that is not requiring a budget, but requires some, brains, smarts, and hard work. But essentially, if you manage to be for your ideal buyers significantly more often than your competition at the right place with the right kind of content or the right kind of message, and just, make sure there is repeated exposure of both your person, your face, your name, and some sort of ideas, some sort of content that is striking the chord with the buyer. That's pretty much how you get on this day one list. And yes, not everybody will line up right now to buy your product, but 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the road, when the buyer has to consider, okay, now is the time. I need to do something about the problem. Your name is highly likely gonna be on that day one list of theirs. And then they will do the research. It's not in any way guarantees you win, but 99.9% of startup founders, they are not able to get even close to repeated exposure, say less in information bubble. And today we will cover some recipes, what you can do as a startup founder and as a sales professional to make that happen. And once you have the master list of the buyers you want to target, once you manage to create an informational bubble around them, then you can afford to not deal with your cold lead again, and you can act and launch specifically trigger-based campaigns based on demonstrated intent. And there are many ways people can demonstrate intent. First-party intent is the key. First-party intent means your website, your social accounts, your personal LinkedIn profile, your company LinkedIn profile. When buyers interact with your marketing assets and with your, let's call them landing pages, right? Landing page is not just the website. Your LinkedIn profile is a landing page for your potential buyer. You can basically see that they are there, and you can launch a trigger-based campaign rather than Hail Mary campaign targeting a lot of people without context and hoping that, they heard anything about you. So yeah, we will probably not cover the step number 3. It's pretty simple, have some website reveal tool on your website. Use some software to track who engages with your content on LinkedIn and with your company page. We'll spend the most time on the step 2 today, and hopefully that's going to be helpful to you guys. So how do you go about creating this information bubble? And we are actually nearing the end. So I think I will rush through the content before opening the floor up to questions. And we can go back and dig deeper if the question arises later. So I sort of see this as like a three-pronged structure. Of course, there is traditional sales and marketing. You can come to events. You can try to bribe customers, bribe, of course, quote unquote, like offer them gift cards, send them, nice wine or some swag. Fair play. And there are even, startups fully dedicated to just corporate gifting. Maildoso would be the name that comes to mind first, but there are definitely like 5 or 10 similar companies. And of course, if you want to get on the radar, that's definitely something to consider. But it's not, that effective to get on this day one list. And of course, there are paid advertising, and there are different kinds of ads. I will not go into detail that much today. I will, present to you just one slide on B2B ads, and then we'll be focusing exclusively on organic things that require not necessarily budget, but effort and determination. So let's talk about ads and be done with them for today. If ads are such a great way to get customers in B2B, why are they not exactly popular? Well, they are popular, and there are significant budgets, especially spent by big companies in the space. But a lot of startups, for example, they just don't even think about ads, and I think this is because there are some myths that are, strictly speaking, not myths, but since the majority of people lack the depth of understanding, I would say ads are actually one of the biggest missed opportunities in B2B sales and marketing, and I will briefly explain why before moving on to organic content. So the number one myth is that ads don't work in B2B. It's not a B2C. People don't impulse buy things. And that is why ads don't work in B2B. That's what the myth says. And reality is, well, you're exactly right. If you try to copy an e-commerce or consumer marketing strategy of selling a teapot that costs, I don't know, $25, or selling something else which is like under $100 and aimed at like impulse shopping, like ask yourselves, how many items have you impulse bought by just, seeing the ad and just going there and spending that money? Personally, I am guilty of at least 3 or 4 such purchases over the last year. In B2B, we are dealing with expensive software, if it's a SaaS industry, of course, and people don't impulse buy, and your advertising strategy should reflect that. And unfortunately, or, that's just the way it is, when people say ads, who is best at ads? E-commerce. Everybody tries to copy direct-to-consumer brands, and that's a huge mistake. You are spending way too much money, not getting remotely similar results. There are deep reasons for that, but just remember that B2C style direct response ads, they really don't work in B2B. You need to do something different if you want to succeed. The second myth is that ads are too expensive, and it is very, very connected to the first one. And if you're doing the B2C direct-to-consumer playbook, yes, it's going to be costing you a lot of money. But this is not what an account-based marketer should be doing like 90% of the time. A lot of time people think, oh, we need a lot of content to promote. We need some, webinars or white papers to gate and whatnot. And the truth is, yes, you need some content like case studies, for example, or testimonials, but you can build enough. And it's actually way less what you need to build for a paid motion than for an organic motion. But, you do need some content. And the biggest one of them all, and I'm still surprised, and I used to sell to marketers for 4 years. So my persona was either a CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, or Vice President of Marketing, or Director of Performance Marketing. So people who deal with advertising every day, all day. And a lot of them were B2B. And I was surprised that 99% of marketers, they don't know that you actually can target the exact list of people like you do for cold outreach. Basically, same people you would like to do cold outreach to on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Google. Yes, it requires a little bit more effort. Yes, you need to use specialized software, but it is surprisingly cheap. And for some reason, this information has not disseminated much in the marketing community. Maybe because of over-reliance on agencies. That is one of the reasons why this myth exists. And of course, it is, one might argue, it might be in the interest of some agencies to present things as super complicated, super expensive, so they have a lot of business. But yeah, that is basically why ads are not so common as they should be. And as I said, this is probably the biggest missed opportunity in B2B. And let's go to organic tools. There are 6 tactics that I want to cover today. And basically, then we will open the floor to Q&A. So tactic number 1, commenting. And commenting is the easiest way to start. Being visible on LinkedIn as the main social network for social selling. And you would be surprised how powerful commenting would be. And there are 2 avenues you need to consider. One is basically if you want to boost reply rates and meeting rates with your target prospects, making sure you're leaving thoughtful comments under their posts on a regular basis and are doing this at least a few times before sending this connection request or sending this cold email, you can actually, quintuple, or I'm not sure what the word is for 6x, 6 times increase, sextuple, I guess, but whatever. And this statistic comes from an acquaintance of mine who is the founder of a company called Extrovert, and they actually built a great tool to spy and track relevant posts published by either your target prospects or the influencers your prospects follow. And then there is some, AI that helps you leave thoughtful comments, not just shitty, very uniform, very uninspiring traditional AI comments, which was the first generation of this kind of software like Tapio, like 100%, you're exactly right, super on point. That doesn't have any value. Of course, you need to comment something authentic, something interesting, maybe ask a question. And this is the approach that works. Of course, not every buyer, not every prospect is active on LinkedIn. So this will not help you that much to warm people who are not posting themselves. But, it's a big, big resource that a lot of sellers are not using. Even if they post on LinkedIn, not a lot of them spend time on commenting. And commenting is very powerful because if you think about all those people you're connected with, if you're doing, let's say, LinkedIn outreach, so every comment that you leave is a chance to get in front of have connected to you, but probably have not responded to you yet. And at any given time, for every person who responded, there would be like 9 other people who haven't. So making sure your face appears in their feed and it is connected to something interesting, original, maybe funny, is a good way to warm those relationships up and make your outreach feel a lot less cold, a lot more familiar. So-called build mental availability. And another great tactic is try to identify influencers that your target audience follows. You can use tools like SparkToro or maybe an alternative for that. And then you can come and leave comment. LinkedIn reports these days on the number of impressions, how many people basically saw your comment. And I noticed that oftentimes my comments get a similar number of impressions, sometimes even more than my typical LinkedIn post. It's not about going viral that much. It's about making sure the right people see the right content, being it a comment or a post. So a very, very underappreciated tactic only requires, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes a day to execute, especially if you can buy a relatively inexpensive tool to do that. So definitely try it, use it, see if you like it, share what you learned. The next thing you can do organically without paying a dime for impressions, but of course you need to pay for LinkedIn itself, is to post regularly. So ideally, you should post 3 to 5 times a week, and that sounds like a lot, right? And it's not just because you want to build a following, it's not just because you want to become a thought leader or an influencer, even though that's very, very nice, especially if you are not a founder, especially if you are a salesperson for hire. Of course, having a big LinkedIn following and ability to generate some traction and some traffic by just posting on LinkedIn could be a huge competitive advantage if you find for your next, if you're looking for a next opportunity. But in addition to that, posts like comments keep showing up in feeds of your prospects. You become discoverable. LinkedIn algorithm will try and show your post to different people. So some of the people who are working on solving the problems you post about with your content, they basically have a greater chance of discovering you and your company and thinking about you as, a living person that has something to say, not just a faceless, annoying sales rep. And of course, there is another way you can go about it. For me, I find the function repost with your thoughts very helpful to start posting regularly. So you don't need to post every time a fully original content. You can just, comment, as we discussed, under somebody else's post, maybe an influencer, and then just tweak the text a little bit, repost the original post, and just your comments, transform them into a standalone post, and it will be connected to the influencer's post. So in general, those reposts with thoughts, they tend to not score the highest on the impression count. So people, you're probably not going to get viral and go viral with this approach. But it is a super easy, super simple way to just start posting something. And what I noticed is usually those kind of posts, they create stronger connections. And even though less people see them, but it's just my feeling, my intuitive feeling based on about 4 to 6 months experience with this. But it seems that the core audience I'm prospecting into has a bigger chance of discovering something when you do this than compared to just writing a fully original standalone post. It's sort of a longer path to success. So even though less people see this, usually the affinity for your prospects might be even bigger. And of course, if you are doing some webinars, if you have some white papers, you can repurpose a lot of that for posts. And if you're a founder and you have a small budget, you can try and work with a ghostwriter. Some of them that are actually, decent, pretty good. They can charge anywhere from $500 per about a dozen posts. And the tool I'm currently looking at for, which is basically like an AI ghostwriter, it follows a similar process like an interview, and then it prepares some sort of a post. Is 2pr.io, so feel free to check it out. It's inexpensive, and it really helps you be consistent and post consistently. And of course, one of the problems with regular posting is you need ideas. And I'm leaving here some Reddit post about it, but pretty much anything you can post about 7 to 8 times about anything, just frame it differently. Frame it as a story, frame it as a question, frame it as a problem. Yeah. However, be mindful that random posts are good to get you started and get into habit, but you will get maximum results when you are able to post within a precisely defined concrete narrative, some kind of a story you want to tell. And all of those multiple different posts are pieces of the puzzle, but ideally you should have a puzzle in mind, and this should inform what you post about and how you do it. So, additional nurturing place to stand out. For new prospects and people you have just connected to, you can invite them to subscribe to your newsletter on LinkedIn, invite them to your webinar, invite them to follow your company page. Personally, for 100 connection requests that I receive as cold outreach on LinkedIn, there's just about a handful of those newsletter subscription invites or webinar invites or company follows. And of course, you need to have a sort of a newsletter to invite people to subscribe to. You need to run an event like this in order to be able to invite people to an event. And your company page probably shouldn't be completely dead if you want to invite people to follow it. But those are LinkedIn actions not used by many sellers yet. And they really give you a chance to stand out. They really give you a chance to do more touch points with a prospect. And if you pick a good name for a webinar, or if you pick a good name for your newsletter, people just may get interested. And another nurturing flow that I personally like, and basically a lot of people, they try to book a meeting with cold outreach. And if it doesn't work, they basically, try to handle those objections a couple of times, and they move on. Same happens to people you have spoken to, you had an intro call or discovery call before. And if you're doing this for a year or two, you probably have a couple of hundred at least of people you have spoken to, and about 1,000 people who replied to you. And I don't mean replies like, hey, take me off your list, but some sort of interested replies or semi-interested replies, but who were not just, willing to jump on a call right away. And the traditional tendency for sellers is to just move forward, move on, forget about them. And you would be surprised how big of an opportunity to create pipeline is buried in those closed lost opportunities or previous conversations. And I learned this from another acquaintance of mine. We tried it for Tommy. We generated quite a good pipeline from this. So this is the cadence that I'm recommending you're trying for your business. So every month, in addition to whatever your company is doing, like sending out marketing newsletters and so on and so forth, you send a short, brief, personal message to those prospects. And usually it's not salesy at all. So what I like to do is I like to find every month maybe 2 or 3 articles or 2 or 3 LinkedIn posts that would be relevant to the persona I'm prospecting into. And I will send either an email or a LinkedIn message saying something like this. Hey, John, I just found this interesting article about, I don't know, marketing ROI measurement. It reminded me of our conversation a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago. I thought you might like it too. Best, Dima. And, sometimes you get a reply like, oh, thank you, I'll check it out. But sometimes people will tell, oh, yeah, we have been speaking with you 6 months ago. It was not a good time. Now we had some changes. Maybe it's time to talk again. So you would be surprised how powerful this is. And if you do it authentically, if the prospects don't feel the commission breath through your email copy or LinkedIn copy, you would be surprised and overwhelmed by the positive feedback you get, and you will definitely stand out. Aside from 99% of sellers who don't do this, who do not share something helpful, something interesting with the prospects, who just move on to the next potential opportunity. Once you do that, and again, it doesn't require a lot of time, even if you have 1,000 people to nurture, that's how many? About 30 a day, 30 messages a day, not much personalization, just, first name and, maybe you have 2 or 3 options. So how much would it take? 20 minutes to send 30 messages? You just need to have a clean CRM or, run this list in some other place. And it's actually very easy and not very time consuming. So once you're doing that, every third or fourth month, instead of sharing third-party content that is not related to your company, you can share either an article your company have published or maybe some sort of a new case study. Again, not being pushy, not being salesy, but saying, hey, we just helped another similar customer. This basically gives you a chance without annoying people, ping them, stay in touch, stay top of mind, remind them about what you do, remind them about amazing results your company can deliver. And maybe every 4 to 6 months, you can just say, hey, it's been a long time. How's life on your end? Maybe let's talk. So making sure you have this nurturing flow will help you capitalize on the warmest part of this master list of leads you are trying to target. And of course, it doesn't take a long time, but it can be a very, very nice addition to your pipeline. So social selling is a team sport. If you work as a team and you do have content to post, make sure your team engages. How I like to structure it, I like to set a specific time, let's say 9 a.m. Eastern time, New York time here in the States, where the whole team logs into LinkedIn, posts what they're supposed to post, spends another 5 minutes commenting for the commenting strategy. And of course, it helps with the early engagement if you like and ideally comment under each other's posts. And the first couple of hours are the most important for LinkedIn algorithm to promote and to promote the post, I mean. So that is why it's important to have your team do it at the same time. Some people use so-called engagement pods. I don't like this tactic per se, but whatever, all is fair in love and war. You can consider using that as well. But what I'm surprised at is that even those people in those engagement pods, like 90% of their team, 90% of their company is not supporting them on LinkedIn like at all. So something to think about. And remember to treat every LinkedIn profile on your team as a potential marketing asset, as a landing page, as a place you can post content in, and some next ideal customer can find you through. So just something to consider to squeeze more juice from LinkedIn with team engagement. If you do long form content like podcasts or webinars, you can repurpose it. You can, from every webinar, probably 5, 7 posts you can do easily. Sometimes you can even do clips from the webinar and attach it to the posts. Here is basically how would I do a newsletter if I wanted to spend as little time as possible, but still make it valuable to my prospects. So here are basically the items you can include. Your best post from the last month, if it's a monthly newsletter. Let's say 3 other LinkedIn posts that caught your attention that you feel could be useful to your audience. You basically curate them and share it as a newsletter. If you ran a webinar, include a link of the recording and everything, or maybe you publish an article. Ideally, you should include like a case study and a fresh testimonial in the newsletter. So you see, if you're doing all those anyway, creating a newsletter is just, I don't know, 30 minutes of work additionally per month. And LinkedIn newsletters look beautiful. You can build your own email list. You can use Substack or Behave or whatever software you prefer. But yeah, just simply relying on the algorithm, either of LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever social network, is not prudent. You need to build a stronger connection. You need to create your email list at some point if you really want to have a genuine connection uninterrupted with your buyers. So great way to do this is just starting a newsletter. And if you don't want to write a lot of original content, this is just a growth hack. You can, get you off the ground. And if you see traction, you can invest more in more original content and things like that. So yeah, try it. Tell me what you think. And finally, influencers. I think there are many different strategies that could work, but I personally admire what Hockey Stack founders were doing, and I had the privilege to connect with them personally. And I just really loved the play that they did. So this was also an enterprise marketing technology, very crowded place. And what they ended up doing, instead of paying cash to influencers, they basically reached out to famous people who are basically in sales technology, marketing technology space. And they invited them to become advisors for their startup. They gave them some small advisor equity package. But what they also did, and that I think is genius, they basically created this fake photo of employee ID for those people who came on board as their advisors, basically influencers promoting them. And this adds like a personal touch, and it's instantly eye-catching. So I totally loved this play, and especially you can run it with next to zero budget. But also it gives you a chance to connect with and get honest feedback from famous people in your niche. So yeah, consider using this for your startup as well. So to sum up, account-based marketing or intelligent inbound is not supposed to be just a tool. It's a mindset, it's a strategy. It's not that much about selling. It's about creating this information bubble around your ideal buyers and repeatedly exposing them to the right kind of content to help you cut through the noise, to help you get noticed, to help you get remembered, to help you be more liked by the prospects. So with this, thank you very much for your attention. I see there are a lot of questions in the chat. So Oleg, if you would help me
Yep. Yeah.
prioritize, or maybe we can open the floor at some point.
Yeah. I'll read out the questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you really much for this insightful presentation. A lot of value, really. And okay, it's question time. Please, guys, feel free. Don't hesitate to ask anything you want. We'll answer your questions. And
So you
the
want
first
people to
one,
raise a hand and ask with the voice, or are they supposed to type it in the
you
chat?
could, yeah, let's do it either way. If you want to raise a hand, please do. If you just prefer to type in chat, please do. We also have a couple of questions in our LinkedIn chat because we had a presentation streamed
Okay.
to LinkedIn also. And let's start with this one. Okay, there are, okay, which website review tool would you recommend? Like most we have
Website
tested
review tool.
are quite inaccurate. So
Yeah, that's a
do
great question. That's a great question. You have to probably accept that the inaccuracy is inevitable. I noticed that the providers like Clearbit or Koala, who give you company level reveal, they tend to be a lot more accurate than providers that give you person level website reveal. But I also noticed that providers of person level reveal, like RB2B, for example, they are becoming more and more accurate over time. So just, maybe try a couple and see what works best for you. There were a couple of studies published, and I believe Koala and Clearbit were the top in terms of reveal rate and accuracy. But of course, if you have Apollo offers a little bit of website reveal for free, even though less accurate, but still, it gives you something to work with. So yeah, that's just the space that's developing, and you just need to understand that, yeah, not every time this will be an accurate hit.
Yeah, with relation to this question, actually, uh, we've just had a conversation about RB2B with our CEO about that. It's the RB2B's, I'm following RB2B CEO on LinkedIn, and he's been posting that they faced a problem that people are getting this revealed personas, but they kind of can't figure out what to do next once they get them. So they get them, but they cannot squeeze value out of this. So would you recommend any strategies like of reaching out once you get this data?
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting question, and I can definitely recommend what you, Oleg, and Maildoso team are doing with this. And I don't have a screenshot at hand. I should add it to my presentation later. But basically, a lot of people try to do, hey, I noticed you visited my website, let's jump on a call. And
Yeah.
this could work, especially if you I'm a big fan of Josh Brown and Chris Voss and similar authors who basically teach how to, construct phrases in email copy or LinkedIn copy or in the cold call script, how to do this in a way that doesn't push too hard and, push your prospect into the zone of resistance. And yeah, of course, if it's like, hey, notice you have been checking out our website, that probably means you're looking into X, and then you try to sell a meeting with an expert, like not just a sales call, but an actual useful consultation. I've seen this work quite well, for some companies. Not 100% hit, but probably 10x reply rate compared to a traditional cold outreach or something. But I think even more smarter strategy is what you guys are using. You have a community and you have this low friction offer like, hey, we noticed you're looking into deliverability tools. We have this community. It's absolutely free. Come and join. I think that's genius. That's a
Yeah,
great place. So if you
definitely,
can
definitely.
do something similar, of course, running a community, you need to spend a lot of effort
Mm,
and stuff like that. So maybe community is not for everyone, but having this simple offer that's not sale is kind of a mid-funnel type of offer, right? So
so
you're
not
probably
like a
looking for
sales offer.
something, yeah, you're probably looking to learn more about something.
Hmm.
So you can
Definitely.
offer to either, I don't know, send over a recording of a webinar or an article, or if you have a community, inviting people to a community
Yeah,
would
definitely.
be a
Yeah.
great way. So yeah, just
Some
don't
mhm.
over focus and over fixate on booking sales calls. That would be my
Yeah, some
advice.
type of lead magnet could also work. Okay, let's move to the next one. Any opinions about sending LinkedIn voice memos versus text? Mm,
Mhm.
what do you think of this?
No opinion based on data. I think voice notes could work, could, show a little bit of the person behind the screen, but you probably need to record every voice note by yourself, so it's not very suitable for scaled outreach plays. And the tool I'm currently considering testing for a different project is called Send Spark. And this is basically an AI video personalization tool. You basically create your own AI clone, and AI is pretty good with this already. And instead of just recording every video or every audio message yourself, you actually can type, and then your clone will say, "Hey John, hey Oleg, hey Kay, hey Paul," and things like that. The worst video outreach that I'm receiving is either starting from like, "Hey there," so the whole personalization is just AI background with my website scrolling up and down.
Mhm.
But I see it's a templated video that is not personalized to me. But with new generation of tools, you can have this hello first name personalization and a little bit of a, you know, text. It can be salesy, it can be less salesy. There are different schools of thoughts. But for scaled plays, tools like SensePark and the personalized videos, I think potentially could be more powerful. But if there is this very, very um, valuable prospect that you really think you can help, you have like a compelling case study, yeah, why not? Go ahead. Record the audio message. Even record yourself on the iPhone, the actual video. Just, try to find the balance between this effort and scale. Without scale, cold outreach doesn't work these days.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks. And we have another one here. It's about social selling. To be clear, on social selling as a team sport. So essentially, as a team, you would like and comment under just each other posts, or would this be mixed with the company posts as well? Mm,
Oh, that's
particularly
a good
if
question. Hmm?
team there is more to it. Particularly if team members have their own personal brands. I'm not sure about the latest part, what he wanted to ask, but in
Yeah,
general.
so I do have an opinion. Of course, the ideal situation is that everybody is prospecting on LinkedIn. Well, maybe not everybody, but if it's a startup, like how many people you have in a startup? 5 to 10 people. Ideally, their profiles are available to you to do prospecting with some automation or just good old login and password sharing and stuff like that. So it's not just about posting and commenting, it's about prospecting itself as well. But when it comes to posts, yeah, just try not to overdo it. It will probably look weird if there are like 5 comments under your post and all of them are coming from your teammates and there is nobody else out there. So overdoing it would probably defeat the purpose. But have some sort of a plan and basically help each other grow and share the content between yourselves. So with minor tweaks, you can actually use one single post with very, very minor tweaks, like a hook, changing a word here and there. You can basically post the same post on every profile, space it out, of course, so it's not on the same day. It will be weird if you post the same post on the same day. But if you're worried about how do I, like, if I have 5 profiles, do I need 5 times more content? No, not at all. You need a very, very simple tweak mechanism, and the content that is enough to feed one profile with very minor tweaks is enough to feed all 5. Just space it out in time. In terms of company page posts, that depends on what you're doing on company page. If you're using it to build an audience on its own, I hear it takes longer and a lot more effort to do this. But I've seen some companies achieve like 8,000 followers, 10,000 followers on their company pages. I mean, startup companies. And of course, if you are able to make people subscribe and engage with the content not posted by the person, but by the company page, that's potentially even better for your business. So yeah, definitely try to help your company page grow as well. And the stronger personal brands your team members have, the bigger help they would be when it comes to supporting each other.
Yeah, definitely. I've been seeing some really prominent brands in like sales stage that do implement team personal brand approach. So they are encouraging their team to post on LinkedIn, and they have some bonus systems in place for that.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Interesting. Interesting. What I heard is that there are some vendors that basically help you orchestrate the whole process. The way it usually works, marketing prepares content and thinks about things like calendar and stuff like that. And the team members can basically log in, copy and paste what they need. And, basically that's just a workflow helper, so to say, strategy. But if you're a startup, you probably just, talking to each other for 15 minutes a week and having the content in one place is what you need. It's not very, very complicated.
okay. So how long would it get to see inbound leads coming from LinkedIn marketing if I start today? Well,
Oh, that's $1 million question. Um, it depends. Depends on your niche, depends on your persona, depends on how good your content is, depending on are you getting viral, are you growing, and or are you just basically nurturing people who have connected to you anyway. But even if you don't get inbound leads from LinkedIn, it will definitely help you double or triple conversion of outbound plays because people who are connecting to you, they are no longer seeing you as just an annoying salesperson sending them messages, but they see the posts, the comments, hopefully some ads. Your marketing can add to that. And I believe this should be your primary purpose. If inbound leads come, that is terrific. People who like your posts or comment under your posts, you can look if they are good fit. You can launch a trigger-based outreach to them like, hey, noticed, thank you for liking my recent post on X. And I don't know, if you want, I can send you something or not something, whatever. Obviously, those kind of trigger-based campaigns, they work super well, super, super good. A lot better than traditional cold outbound. But again, I view those content and nurturing plays as ways to boost conversion of the outbound motion, and the inbound I consider as a bonus, like a free bonus, so to say. So even if it doesn't happen, don't be too frustrated about it. It doesn't happen to everyone. It's actually, a lot harder and a lot more expensive to generate inbound leads from this kind of content than influencers and ghostwriters want you to believe.
thanks. And we have one more question here. You just mentioned about tools to target persons or accounts like the most likely to be a potential client? Could you suggest one for ad campaigns? I guess they're asking for a tool that helps you identify the accounts and adding them to ad campaigns.
Okay, let me reiterate. I do not recommend using third-party intent tools to build outbound lists or advertising lists. I'm not, the marketers I speak with who use Sixth Sense and everything, they just say, yeah, it's good for account prioritization, for account identification, but for ads and outreach, not necessarily. So the tool that I actually would recommend, there are two tools to build the audience of people, basically how to show ads to the people you want to do cold outreach to. You prepare a list, let's say 10,000 people, and you want to do outreach to them, not just over email, but over Facebook feed, Instagram feed, or LinkedIn feed for that matter. And the two tools that I have personally tried and seen good results with are, first one is MetaMatch. It's a small product from Metadata, the big marketing technology vendor. MetaMatch is kind of a product-led, minor product for them, and I'm surprised they charge only $300 a month for a starter package for MetaMatch. It's just a complete, bargain, theft, steal, whatever. So it's one of the cheapest and one of the most powerful tools somebody can use. And a similar tool to build an audience, but not, well, you have to find signals and you have to build a list first somehow. And I'm not recommending you use content consumption intent, as I said. But once you build a list, MetaMatch or this other tool called Primer, their website is sayprimer.com. It basically works in a similar fashion, so it helps you build a list. Primer can help you build a list too, not just upload the list you have already built into advertising ecosystems.
Okay, great. By the way, if you don't recommend third-party signal tools, what do you personally use? Like,
I'm a big believer into demand creation, and every buyer will be in market someday. And I think the problem you should be solving is how do you get on this day one list of vendors that when buyers decide to do something about the problem you're solving, you are there in their mind, ideally rent free. So they basically, look deeper into you or, go to your website so you can reveal them and launch a trigger-based campaign and everything. So you don't wait for them to become inbound leads. You basically nurture them, warm them up. And I believe, especially if you're selling something expensive, especially if you're selling to a narrow TAM, you should target every qualified buyer, despite, regardless of them being in market or not in market. And I understand this is a completely different strategy, but you can also think about what kind of cold outreach would resonate with people who are not in market, right? 90% of people, maybe even more, you're reaching out over email to, they're not in market. It's not a burning issue for them. So how do you make your outreach valuable? How do you make it educational? How do you make people like you and remember you for what you're doing? Probably not just saying, hey, buy my stuff. Let's get on the call. And same goes for advertising. So even though signals are great, but I prefer to filter companies for fit. But for intent, I prefer to rely on first-party intent, which is basically your website, your social profiles, something that you own, not even things like review websites. Usually, if you are catching people who are, let's say, using g2.com to research some category, usually it's a little bit too late. You are not on the day one list. You missed that opportunity. You're fighting for 10% of the market. You're too late in the game, probably. So, first party intent and signals to determine fit and qualification of target accounts and target buyers. And then basically go with this long play, creating an information bubble, nurturing them while they're eventually becoming market. So they think of you.
yeah, love that. Thank you. And we have just a couple of more, and let's wrap up because we're already taking almost 1.5 hours. Okay, what's your recommended approach to building multi-threaded outreach within a single target account without being repetitive or annoying?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to be honest, I don't have a very practical recommendation. Um, what I would suggest is, of course, you need to target multiple personas. Of course, you need to have multiple different campaigns working at the same time. And just, try not to enroll everyone in the company into the same sequence. That will put you in the top 10% of multi-threaders, you know. And of course, there are other people. Um, I like reading Nate Nasrallah, one of the influencers on LinkedIn. He actually published an amazing book called Selling With. Basically, it's about empowering champions and selling with them, not to them. I think he has some helpful tips on multi-threading, like, hey, Mr. Executive, I just met, somebody on your performance marketing team, and we have discussed this and that. It seems these are your organizational priorities. Care to weigh in or, comment on that? And if you don't want to get them, like, you don't ask them to get on the call unless they, respond and have something to contribute. But basically, using some calls, some discovery calls, introductory calls that are happening within the account as a reason to reach out and sort of brief the executive buyers, for example, or maybe some colleagues of those people, could be also a very effective tool to do the multi-threading. But at the entry point, just enroll people into different sequences, or at least not enroll everyone into the same sequence. That would probably help.
Yeah, thanks. And sorry, uh, I've got one question from myself. Oh, sorry, we're still having one more question from our listeners. What about European market? GDPR is making things a bit harder. Uh, have you have you actually faced like problems with GDPR and implementing ABM marketing?
Well, and GDPR is a big topic, but I think it's overblown. It's actually not that difficult to be compliant. Um, what remains to be seen is basically how do you do cold outreach to European buyers. And I know a lot of companies, they do cold outreach and do it very successfully. But within the United States, there is this very transparent legal framework called Can Spam Act. And you can find a very, very useful, very simple guide at the Federal Trade Commission website. So it's very, very clear what you need to do as a growth marketer or a business development representative doing cold outreach in the United States. With European jurisdictions, it might be a little bit more tricky, and the regulation may vary from country to country. But my understanding is cold outreach is alive and well. And basically, everybody's doing it, including cold calling, including cold email. And people from Europe are actually more likely to respond because they get a lot less cold email, in my
Yeah,
experience.
definitely.
And if account-based marketing is basically the same, if you're using organic plays like, social selling and everything, you don't need any personal data or any consent. If you're doing advertising, it's a little bit harder to procure the data you need to create those advertising audiences. But like in my experience, if you're having about 80% match rate for US-based audiences, you would be having positive scenario 60%, negative scenario 40%, so half of the US level match rate for European audience, which basically is, you know, not a factor. Yes, you can reach twice fewer people with advertising because contact data is less quality and less available. But if you are targeting like 5,000 people or 10,000 people or 20,000 people, it's still worth doing.
Yeah. By the way,
I see we have a hand. Yeah, go ahead, Alec.
thanks. By the way, if you're worrying about GDPR in terms of cold email, or if you're targeting a country where it's too strict about cold email, you still have LinkedIn outreach.
Yes,
So
exactly.
LinkedIn is the same everywhere.
Yes,
Uh,
you're exactly right.
uh,
Yeah,
well, about so what you described in your presentation, it looks like a really awesome approach. Sorry, but it also looks quite time consuming and resource consuming. And resource, I mean not only money, but your energy, your focus, concentration. So, like, let's say you're a new startup or you're a new marketing manager, CMO, who are thinking about what are they gonna do with their marketing. Like, is there a bottom minimum threshold at which you would go for ABM rather than any other more direct approach? Like, I mean, in terms of your product size or the account company size.
The way I think about it is you should follow the path of least resistance. That's how the nature works. Things move in the path of least resistance. So if you're having tremendous success with super simple, like non-personalized, scaled outreach, kudos, congratulations, double down, do more of what works. If you encounter any trouble, then you need to think long and hard. How can you adjust? Maybe it's not your offer. Maybe it's just a too noisy of a niche. Like marketing technology is probably one of the noisiest niches out there. And, the more noise out there is, the more competitive the space is, the more reason to invest into those demand creation and nurturing plays that I have described. But obviously, as a fellow founder, I would recommend, okay, try something simple, and it will give you a quick understanding. Do you have a fighting chance? You should be able to book at least some meetings, at least some pipeline with very simple but thoughtful cold outreach in a scaled fashion. The benchmark is for cold email about 350 sequence prospects for one interested reply. So yeah, if you can achieve that or something similar, you have a fighting chance. If you are not seeing that, probably something wrong with your offer, probably something off with your understanding of your target audience. But if you don't have a huge TAM, you can burn through it really quickly. So you need to you will need to start investing in alternative tactics sooner. And of course, if you want to increase conversion rate, no need to do everything all at once, right? I'm giving you a menu. Some people just say, okay, if you just start commenting and repurposing those comments as posts, you will do, you know, significantly better than 95, maybe even 99% of sellers. So start with that one simple tactic and see if it helps you. And obviously, if you achieve success, you will have more resources to invest in other tactics as well. Alexei was raising a hand for some time. So Alexei.
yeah. Hi, Dima. Thank you for the presentation. I've grabbed a few things from you. Actually, to tell you straight, you already answered my question. I was going to ask uh, how to test different ICTPs and approach. So actually, you named the benchmark. I have some kind of similar, around 400, 500 leads to reach to test if your guest ICP and let's say angle of pitch robust. And yeah, so that's what
Yeah,
I'm usually
well,
doing with new companies.
yeah, obviously it's a little bit more complicated than that because you can do a lot better if your product market fit is stronger and your offer is stronger and less risky and your email copywriting is better. But obviously, having those replies is just the first step. to confirming your product market fit. You need to understand that, yeah, okay, those people are just not willing to respond to my outreach, but they are willing to book a call with me. And I do have a strategy on this call that I'm able to execute to move those deals forward and actually come to close on revenue. So that's just the first step. But yeah, it's just the reality of today. You really need hundreds of people, enroll them into sequences to get replies, because all of those spam protections, because growing number of people doing cold email, and at some point, maybe it will break completely, and everybody will switch to buyer nurturing, account-based marketing, and everything. But so far, these are just the stats that I'm seeing across multiple projects that I'm running. So, yeah.
Yeah. So could you outline like a minimum set of tools or approaches to make ABM work? Like if you're just starting or if you are tight on resources.
Yeah, you can pretty much do everything in Excel and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So that's pretty much the very, very bare minimum tooling that you need. I personally like Extrovert, the tool that actually can help you be more systematic about tracking the posts, both of influencers and prospects. The built-in functionality in Sales Navigator is significantly less user-friendly, but you can still do it. You can create lists, you can manually click them, so you don't need to pay for extra tooling if you don't want to. You're basically paying with the time and the trouble of working with the interface. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's just everything you want to have and need to have to do a good scaled cold outreach, like data providers, like enrichment APIs and stuff like that. And on top of that, you don't need anything beside LinkedIn profile itself, and probably Sales Navigator, to give you a little bit of more list building functionality and search functionality.
Yep. Okay, thanks. Let's wrap up then. I think we answered all the questions we have here. Thanks
Great.
really much for this valuable presentation and conversation. Great insights. I think a lot of people found actionable advice here. And have a great day or great evening, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. And if you want more advice like this, follow me on LinkedIn. And happy hunting. Bye-bye.
Yep. Thanks. Bye.